It must be avoided at all costs, because these money traps will bury you very deep, and it will be very difficult to get out of this pit. So now, I will tell you about the most dangerous money traps that lead to ruin and loss of money. To begin with, many of us middle-class folks often fall into the trap of living large. We see our neighbors buying new cars, making expensive renovations, and going on exotic trips, and we want to live that way too. But the problem is that many of these people are living on borrowed time. They take out loans for all these things and end up in a debt trap. I fell into that trap myself once upon a time. I bought a new car because the old one was already embarrassing to show to the neighbors. But then I realized that the monthly loan payments were eating up a significant portion of my income, and I couldn't afford to save for the future. Another common trap is education loans. In America, many people believe that you can't succeed without a college degree, and it's true that a degree can open many doors. But is it worth taking out huge loans to attend prestigious universities? I know people who are still paying off their student loans even though they have been working for a long time. They can't afford to buy a house or save for retirement because a large portion of their income goes to paying off debt. If I could go back, I would choose a more affordable college and try to get scholarships and grants to minimize my debt. Another trap is home loans. Many of us dream of owning our own home, and it can indeed be a good investment. But it's important not to overestimate your options. I know people who bought homes they could barely afford, and now they're living from paycheck to paycheck trying to pay the mortgage. They can't afford unexpected expenses like repairs or medical bills and end up in an even bigger debt hole. If I could give one piece of advice, it would be, buy a home you can actually afford, and leave yourself a financial cushion for emergencies. A similar mistake is not saving and investing. Many of us live for today and don't think about the future. We spend everything we earn and don't save for a rainy day. I used to live like that myself. But then I realized that without savings, I couldn't handle unexpected expenses like car repairs or medical bills. Now I try to set aside at least 10% of my income each month and invest that money in stocks and bonds. This helps me feel more confident and prepared for all of life's situations. Another trap is consumer loans. We often take out loans to buy new gadgets, furniture, or vacations. But the problem is that these things quickly lose their value and the debts remain. I know people who are still paying off loans for things they threw away or sold long ago. If I could give one piece of advice, it would be, try to avoid consumer credit and only buy what you can really afford. Well, the biggest mistake is lack of financial planning. Many of us live from paycheck to paycheck and don't think about how to manage our money. It is worth forgetting that careless attitude to things also negatively affects money. We often don't appreciate what we have and don't take proper care of our things. I remember buying an expensive phone but not buying a case, thinking it was an unnecessary waste of money. As a result, the phone quickly got scratched and lost its look. If I had immediately bought a case, the phone would have served me much longer. By the way, vacationing in places we can't afford is another common mistake. We often see beautiful pictures on social media and dream of luxurious resorts and expensive hotels. But it's important to remember that even if we can afford such a trip, it doesn't mean we need to go there. I remember once deciding to go to an expensive resort to feel like I was on top of my game. But I ended up spending all my savings and came home with an empty wallet and a sense of disappointment. If I had chosen a more affordable place, I would have been able to enjoy my vacation without the financial stress. Well, a bad habit is not keeping an eye on promotions and discounts. We often buy things at full price without thinking that we could have saved money. I remember once buying an expensive appliance without checking if it was discounted. A week later, I saw the price of it drop and realized I had overpaid. If I had spent some time looking for promotions and discounts, I could have saved a significant amount of money. Buying cheap stuff because of the low price is also a mistake. We often think we're saving money by buying cheap stuff, but they end up breaking down or losing value quickly. I remember buying cheap shoes that fell apart after a couple months. I ended up having to buy a new pair, and I spent more money than if I had bought quality shoes right away. Saving money on something important and breaking down later is one of the dumbest things to do. We often save money on things that are really important and then run into big problems later. I remember when I decided to save money on car repairs and didn't replace worn-out parts in time. The car ended up breaking down and the repairs cost me a lot more. If I had invested in quality repairs right away, I would have avoided these problems. It's also worth noting that trying to repair things that are no longer in perfect order is often a waste of time and money. For example, if your old appliances are constantly breaking down and need to be repaired, it may be worth considering buying a new one. Frequent repairs can be more expensive than buying a new item that will last longer and be more reliable. I remember trying to fix an old refrigerator that kept breaking down. I ended up spending more money on repairs than if I had bought a new one right away. Sometimes it's better to invest in a quality item than to constantly spend money fixing it. It's also important to constantly think about where and what you're spending your money on rather than throwing it around mindlessly. Financial planning and controlling your spending helps you avoid unnecessary spending and debt. I myself once didn't think about my expenses and spent money on things I didn't need. But then I realized that without a clear plan and control, I can't achieve my financial goals. Now I keep a budget and try to analyze every purchase to make sure it's really necessary. This helps me save money and feel more confident financially. My dear ones, every choice we make has consequences. It is important to learn from your mistakes and draw conclusions. Let every choice you make be informed and wise, and then you will be able to enjoy life to the fullest, whether you are sitting in the economy class of a train or flying in the business class of an airplane.